Hey guys, Horror Man back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the MAFEX Scarecrow figure, and this is from the Dark Knight Trilogy collection. So just taking a look at the packaging, you can see there's some really cool pictures of the Scarecrow on the back here. Also just kind of highlighting some of the accessories and some of the bonus pieces you get for Batman. Then you can see there's a really cool picture on the side. It says MAFEX Dark Knight Trilogy. Picture of the Scarecrow. Some credits in different language. See another full-size picture of the Scarecrow on the side. And then the same picture on the top. And then to the front, you can see the figure and the clear window showcased with all the different accessories. And it just says Scarecrow action figure, DC Comics, Medicom toy. You can see another picture of Scarecrow is kind of like in a shush position. Then the picture of the unmasked Cillian Murphy head. Now one thing about this packaging is you don't get a cool little like art like you did with Bane and some of the other Dark Knight Trilogy figures, but it's still pretty cool. So let's go ahead and take this out of the package and get a closer look. So just getting the package open here. As soon as you cut the tape on the box, you should be able to open it fairly easily. And then all these are locked in with just the tray. Now keep in mind when you open up the box, there's actually a little stand inside at the very bottom. It's kind of taped on the inside. And then the actual figure has no twisty ties. It's all sealed in just this tray. Now on the back of it, there's actually a cape taped into the back, so beware of that as well. And then as soon as you remove this clamshell, all the pieces will fall out, so be careful with that. So let's go ahead and get all the packaging off and take a look at the actual figure. Alright, so here's the Scarecrow out of the packaging, and I think this looks really cool. So you can see the figure is basically wearing his suit like you see pretty much in most of the movie. He also wore like a straitjacket just for a little while. So unfortunately you do not get the straitjacket with this, which would have been a really nice inclusion for this. Maybe in another figure down the road we'll see that as an accessory for the Scarecrow, but as it is, you just get the suit. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the head sculpt. Alright, so just taking a closer look at the masked head sculpt. It's very nice looking. There's a lot of different details going on here. You got the rope kind of hanging down, and it kind of goes to the right just a little bit. Now it is a little of a more pliable material, but you probably have to heat it up to really change the direction, because slowly it'll just kind of pop back. Besides that, you get some really nice sculpted details in that mask. You can see the stitching around the mouth. And this mouth is meant to look like it's kind of stitched shut, and I think they've done a really good job of actually capturing that. And then you can also see his eye, and there's a little bit of like his face showing. And I think that's really nice because it does give the look that it is a mask, not just his face. Same thing, of course, with the other side. You can kind of see his eyeball on his skin a little bit. I really like the stitching, specifically around this right eye. He always kind of had this circular stitch going around his eye. You can see more stitching, but you can see all the different sculpted details just going all the way around. And overall, I think they've just done a really, really nice job in capturing the look of the Scarecrow mask. Now what's really nice about this figure is you actually get two different head sculpts, which is something we don't really get often from a Scarecrow figure. So you do get the masked head sculpt, and then you get the unmasked Cillian Murphy head sculpt. And it's very simple to change this. Just want to go ahead and pop this off, and you can see how it comes off pretty easily. And if you look on the inside, you can kind of see like the skin tone piece, which is going to be, you know, what they use for the eyes showing through. So it's a really complex head sculpt. But anyway, to get this on, you just have the little hole underneath of the head, and you're just going to pop that onto the peg, and it goes on there really easily. So pretty good head swap system. Alright, so here's the Cillian Murphy head, and this is something that I don't believe we've ever had. I know we haven't had it in figure form, but I'm not actually sure if we've ever had this in any form, statue or bust or anything. So this is the first time I've ever seen it, and I think for the first attempt they've done a really good job. from certain angles, like this angle, it definitely looks like him. I really do like the kind of like the placement of the eyes. Kind of gives him this like eerie kind of look, and you kind of know that he is the bad guy. But yeah, I really like the look of it. I think they've done a great job. And I mean, just looking at the sculpt overall, you can see how they've done the hair really nicely, kind of like all brushed, but a lot of texture done in there. So yeah, I mean, I think they've done a really nice job with that. There's a couple little spots like the ears where it gets a little heavy with the paint, but overall, I just think he has a really creepy look. And it definitely reminds me of Cillian Murphy, so I'm pretty happy with it. Alright, so looking the rest of the figure over, there really isn't a lot of excitement here. I mean, it's basically just a guy in a suit with a tie. So there really isn't a lot to talk about. But they did do a good job. I mean, it's as good as you can expect for a guy in a suit. It's just a doll finish. You got a couple little pockets in the front here. You can see like the little seams in the suit. They've got some cool little creases going on, and it is like a softer material, so the body can easily move even though it has that jacket on, so it's not like a real hard piece. And then the shoes, they don't offer peg holes on the feet, but they do have a really good amount of sculpting going on. I assume these are boots because it's definitely got more of a boot tread on there. But overall, I mean, it definitely looks like Cillian Murphy in his suit, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I still just wish it had a straitjacket. So you do get a few different accessories for Scarecrow. You'll get multiple pairs of hands and then a couple different unique types of hands. So you're going to get the fisted hands, the fully relaxed hands, then you get a right gripping hand, a right more of like a lighter open gripping hand, and then you also get these pointed finger hands, and that's one for left and right. You'll also get a very small Zippo lighter, and then you also finally get this cool Scarecrow mask that he can basically use to hold and look like he's just holding an empty mask. So I think that's really cool. Now you're going to use a specific hand for this, and I'll show you how to use that. But the lighter is so tiny. This is the smallest accessory I think maybe in my collection. But it's got some really good detail. You can kind of see the flame coming off the top of it. And you can see that the case is open. So when you use the more thumb open gripping hand, this is what you're going to use to make it look like he's lighting the lighter. So really cool accessory, but it probably would have been better if they just sculpted it in the hand. Alright, so in addition to the Scarecrow accessories, you're also going to get an extra set of accessories to use with the Batman Begins Batman. And this is basically going to turn that Batman into the Bat Demon, which is basically what Scarecrow sees after Batman turns his own poison on him. So you're going to get a few different things here. The first thing you'll get is this awesome Bat Demon head sculpt. And I think they've done a fantastic job with this head sculpt. I mean, I really like it. I like the different expression they gave him, the sculpted teeth. He just looks really scary. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to see this under some hallucination either. So you get that. You're also going to get the utility belt that he uses pretty much in Batman Begins, and I believe it's the same one he used through the whole series. But it's all black, so it's done a full black deco. You're also going to get a couple different interchangeable hands, and these look more like scarier, like sharper fingernails, and just more of like in line with the Bat Demon. And then the final accessory you get looks like it's right out of like a Halloween store. You get a different cape. Now, if you look at the sculpting on the chest piece, it's got some wear and tear, and it's got like some kind of wrinkling to it. Kind of looks like it's been burnt or old. And in the back of the cape, you can see there's actually some kind of like, I don't want to call it sculpting, but there is some different pieces to make it look like it's really like kind of wet or tattered or stained. Then there's a bunch of holes all over the cape, and in the bottom of it you can see it's kind of like cut up all different. So they've done a really good job with these accessories. I wasn't expecting such quality for something that doesn't really work with the figure I'm buying, but they've done this with a few different releases for Batman, so pretty cool. I'm actually really excited to put this on the Begins figure. Alright, so the final accessory you're going to get is actually a figure stand, and it comes with a base, an arm, and the head of the stand, the clamp. So all you have to do is just cut this plastic open and get these pieces out. Alright, so the stand itself has 3 different positions that you can actually put this pole in, so you could choose whether you want it on the right, middle, or the left side. And you could just go ahead and peg that in, just give it a little bit of pressure. And this arm adjusts pretty nicely. You can go all the way down with it. You can go pretty far back on the neck. So you do have multiple ways you could display this. And then the top of it just opens, closes, and you can't really put pressure on it. I really wish there was a spring clip like we've seen with the DC Collectibles, like with their Expressions packs stand, but we don't have that here. So we'll see how it works. But overall, it seems to work pretty nicely. You can kind of turn the top of this if you want to angle it. So we'll see how well it can hold up a figure. Alright, so it does seem to hold a figure up pretty good. I mean, it's not going to fall over or anything, so you can see how it actually does lock them into place pretty nicely. I actually like this stand better than the standard animated series stands, but I still do wish it kind of had that clip. But if you wanted to, you might be able to put him in a flight pose, but I don't think you would really want to have him in any pose like that. But I'm not sure if it has the strength to really support, so you can see how it kind of doesn't quite have a lot of strength here, so a flight pose would be a little bit difficult. But overall, it will stand up your figure and keep it from falling off the shelf. Alright, so going over the articulation for Scarecrow, he can look down really far. He can look up decently far. And then the head, you can see how it can kind of pivot forward and back, like actually go pretty far forward. So that's a really nice piece of articulation. You can give him a lot of expression in the head sculpt. It's got a full pivot on the left and right. So really nice articulation there. Now with the Scarecrow head sculpt, he might just have a little bit more issues, but let's see, he can look down pretty far. Yeah, he can't look up quite as far, but enough if Batman's coming with a flight pose. But then you can turn the head pretty far to the left and pretty far to the right, so he still has really good pivot. Now the arms go out real far. They can actually go up a little bit. They go all the way down, and you can see how this can actually drop down to give it more articulation. You have a you got a little bit of a swivel. Not really the bicep swivel, because it kind of swivels more at the shoulder. You do have a double joint at the elbow. And then depending on how you take the hands off, you can actually rotate the peg here, but he does have full range on the wrist. He can turn at the waist. He can actually bend pretty far. Not quite like an ab crunch, but just the waist itself has a ball joint, so he's able to really look down or move his body pretty good left to right. You can do a split about that far. And just like the shoulders, you can drop the leg down to give it more articulation. You can do a pretty good kick. You do have a double joint at the knee, but it's pretty much hindered from the slacks. And then the feet can go up and down pretty good. And he does have ankle pivot. So overall, pretty good articulation on him. I mean, it's good enough, especially for a Scarecrow figure, so I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so interchanging the hands is fairly simple on here. You just have to give it a little bit of a firm grip. Pops off, you got the hole in the hand and a nice little peg here. And then if you just want to pop the hand on, just have to match up that hole and then just pop it right in. Once you got it on there, you can see Scarecrow giving you the thumbs up. No, this is actually the lighter hand. So the detail's pretty good on the hands. I will say the paint will rub a little bit. Unfortunately, it rubs off quite a bit, so be careful with that. So this lighter is extremely small. So it's supposed to plug in like this, and then you can do a little pose with the Scarecrow holding the lighter, and it's a really cool effect. But again, I really think that this probably would have been a better effect if it was just part of the hand sculpt, because I think people are going to lose this lighter. I'm pretty sure they're going to lose this lighter. So I don't know, I might eventually just glue this in the hand, but I kind of like want a picture with him doing the thumbs up, so I don't know. But yeah, just be really careful with this lighter. And here he is with the pointing hand, or just like the box, you can actually put him in kind of like a shush type position, since he's got such good articulation, or you could like pick his nose or something like that. But yeah, really cool hand sculpts. I think they're perfect for this figure. This is one of the figures, a few figures, where the hand sculpts actually are really good accessories. Alright, so this is easily my favorite accessory that the Scarecrow comes with. You actually get a sculpted mask for him to hold on to. And I think they've done a really good job with that. You can see he actually has a hand that's meant for holding it, which is that gripping hand. And there's a cut in the mask so the hand fits perfectly in it. And he can... So it's really cool, and I think it's really fitting for the character, and it definitely makes for wanting to have this unmasked head sculpt. So fantastic accessory. Now you can see when you take this out of the hand, it does have a little cut in the top, and that's for the hand to fit perfectly around. So really cool piece. And then you could see like the different sculpting and all that was done on that, and it really gives the look of a sack mask. Now, even though Scarecrow doesn't come with a ton of accessories, I've actually found a couple cool things to put with him. First of all, this briefcase actually came with a Hunk figure, which is made by NECA. It's an old Resident Evil figure. But the briefcase looks really cool with him. I think that would have been a really cool thing to include with the figure. But if you do have that, this briefcase fits really nice. Now, one other thing you could do with this figure is if you don't want to display him with the Cillian Murphy head, you can actually use that old MAFEX 2.0 Batman head from the Dark Knight, and you can actually peg this head on there instead. So you can actually have a Bruce Wayne figure, which is pretty cool. Now, the actual paint on the face doesn't quite match as well, but it will work. Now, unfortunately, if you own that Batman Begins figure, that Bruce Wayne head, I was not able to get this on this body. And honestly, the skin tone is really bad, too. I mean, it doesn't match the other one perfectly, but this one is even worse. But for some reason, the head sculpt, like the way they did the inner inside of the head, like the hole, it just doesn't work with this figure. And I've tried a couple times, but I didn't want to force it. So you might be able to get it on there, but you might have to mod it a little bit. Alright, now to get all the different parts onto the Batman Begins figure, the only way I could think to get this belt off is I actually just already popped out the peg, because this figure will completely separate. So you can just go ahead and change out that belt. Now you can see there's also a joint right here at the waist, but that one looked a little scarier to me, so I went with the diaphragm one. But yeah, you just want to go ahead and slip that right over top of the torso, and then you could just peg the diaphragm part back on, which is a little tough, but it will go back on. And you can see now he has that fully blacked out belt. Alright, now what you're also going to do is go ahead and pop off the head sculpt. And then you're also going to pop off this chest piece, which is a little tough to get out, but you just move back that shoulder piece and then you should be able to pop it out just like that. So you should just have just these pieces. So now that you have those accessories off, you're going to go ahead and put the new cape on, which will fit into that plate. And you saw there was little magnets there to hold it in place. But you're also going to have to push that on fairly tight to get it to rest on there. And then as soon as you have that on, you're just going to go ahead and put this head sculpt on. Alright, and then once you have the head on, the final step of the process is to just interchange the hands to these more creepy, like sharp fingernail hands. So if you bought Batman Begins Batman, you buy the Scarecrow, you get this awesome Bat Monster or Bat Demon, whatever you want to call them. And I really think they've done a great job. I'm not a real sucker for the pack-in accessories, but man, this thing looks cool. I love all the details and the cape and all the tattering and the different, you know, cuts all going through it. So I really think MAFEX has definitely delivered with this Bat Demon. Now, if you want, you could put the different interchangeable hands on the Bat Demon, just in case you don't want the, you know, hands that he comes with. But I think they're really cool, and there's really no reason for him to have the batarangs or anything. And one thing I will say about this head sculpt is you actually get a better range of articulation compared to the regular Batman Begins head sculpt. So I think they've done a little bit better job with that rubberized neck collar piece that they did when you compare it to the original Batman Begins figure. But yeah, man, I mean, this is just a really, really cool figure. Alright, so for the first comparison, here he is next to the Batman Begins Batman, also made by MAFEX. And I think these look great next to each other. Batman's a decent amount taller, which he should be, and I think they just look really, really cool. And I mean, this is one of my favorite versions of Batman, so just awesome to have these two in a 6-inch scale. Alright, and here's Dr. Crane with the Bat Demon. And man, look at those two next to each other. Very cool. Again, I like the height difference here, and just the overall sculpting and detail and how accurate it is to the movie. I'm just really, really impressed with that. Here he is next to the MAFEX 2.0 Batman, and I think he matches up pretty good in height, but not quite as much as the Batman Begins version. Here he is next to the MAFEX Bane, and I think Bane's a little shorter than I would hope for, seeing them two next to each other, but they were both in the Dark Knight Rises, but the Scarecrow didn't have the mask on. And even side by side with you have him with the mask off, he's still just a little bit taller than I would hope for when I see him next to each other, but it's not horrible. Next to the Figuarts Dark Knight Rises Batman, and just like the Bane, I think Batman's just a tad short next to the Scarecrow figure, but at least that Batman Begins MAFEX looks good next to it. Here he is next to the NECA Toys Batman Begins Batman and the Heath Ledger Joker, and you could definitely see how they're different scales. And here he is next to a couple Mattel Scarecrow figures. You have the DC Universe Classics figure, which is pretty old. Kind of looks like the old cartoon, which I really like. And then this one is from the original Mattel Movie Masters line from the, it was around the time of the Dark Knight, but I believe it was actually labeled under Batman Begins packaging. And you could see the difference in height between all three of these. And I really like how much better this MAFEX version looks. I do like the mask of this one, but not quite as much as I like the MAFEX. Seeing these two side by side, I really love how good this MAFEX came out. The mask is so much more accurate, look, especially from the side. Look at the difference there. I do like that this one has the straitjacket, but it's not removable. And when you look at the articulation, I mean, you got this single hinge elbow compared to that double hinge, so it's really no comparison, especially with articulation, the paint apps, and I really love having that unmasked head for the MAFEX version. For your DC Collectibles comparison, here's a couple Scarecrow figures from the Arkham Games series. You have the Arkham Asylum Scarecrow, then you have the Arkham Knight Scarecrow. And again, you can see how they are taller than the MAFEX Scarecrow. They're about 7-inch scale, whereas Scarecrow's in a 6-inch scale. So they still look really cool with each other, but they're not going to scale quite right. Man, how cool would it be to see MAFEX tackle this Arkham Asylum Scarecrow? That is a creepy cool figure. But anyway, they don't quite scale together. And for your final comparison, here's the MAFEX Scarecrow next to the Hot Toys Scarecrow. And again, you have another Scarecrow with the straitjacket. Now this straitjacket's actually removable. So like I said, I think it'd be really cool if MAFEX could include something like this for a future, maybe like a pack-in accessory for one of the figures coming out. because it'd be really cool to put that jacket on this Scarecrow. But I tell you, even though this is a Hot Toys figure and they're great quality, this MAFEX actually looks more accurate, so really cool. Alright, so that's my review of the Dark Knight Trilogy Scarecrow figure made by MAFEX. And I think this is an awesome figure. If you're a fan of the series, especially Batman Begins, or if you've been collecting the Dark Knight Trilogy, you're definitely going to want to pick this up. The Scarecrow itself is a really cool character, and I think they've really brought it to life here, especially by providing that Cillian Murphy Dr. Crane head sculpt. That's just an inclusion that you may never see with another Scarecrow figure, so I think it's just awesome that this is actually the first time we've really seen his face on a figure, so awesome. I love the accessories that you get to make the Bat Demon, and I think ultimately it's going to draw people to want to buy this figure. But I do feel like the Scarecrow falls a little short in terms of accessories for just himself. But like I said, I mean, you get that unmasked head sculpt. That's really a huge thing to have. And I do think this little accessory of the mask is a perfect accessory for a Scarecrow figure. So it's going to make people want to maybe display him with the unmasked head a little bit more. The one thing I would like to see is maybe if they can pack in an accessory of that straitjacket with a figure. I know they have a Bruce Wayne figure coming, they've got a Ra's al Ghul figure, so maybe something down the road if they could pack in a straitjacket for him to wear, I think that would really make this figure look even cooler. But overall, I think it's a great quality product, accessories, articulation, the likeness to the characters, and the fact that you can actually create an entirely different character with these accessories for the Bat Demon is just awesome. So I got this figure on eBay, but you should see it start showing up in comic shops and places like that really soon. So thanks for watching my review. Please subscribe, please like the video, leave a comment or question if you have one, and until next time, guys, see ya.